If you buy yourself flowers and you have those there and you're rubbing oil that has like your favorite smell on your body after the shower, even better if you're in the mirror and you're looking at yourself and you're connecting to yourself. It's just these little tiny things instead of rushing through your life that's going to allow you to invite that deeper connection and deeper relationship with your body and somebody else's body.
Welcome to the Pleasure Science Podcast, a podcast all about making you feel healthier and empowered in your sexuality. Today, we're going to talk about loving your body, and I'm so excited to get into this conversation because not only are we talking to someone who's an amazing friend, but just a profound expert on this area. We're going to dive into how to love your body, how to be present during sex, and a little bit more. So let me introduce Lyss Ball, who is an intersex advocate and a somatic spaceholder. Basically, she's someone who's trauma-informed on embodiment. Embodiment means all about connecting to your body and healing it. She's a somatic expert, but she's also an intersex educator. So Lyss, welcome. I'm so excited for our conversation today. How are you doing?
I am doing so well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So the way we always start off any, conversation on pleasure science is asking the person who's joining, what is your definition of sex? So I would love to know, what is your definition of sex?
This question is really difficult, but also really fun because I want to say that it's any activity, either alone or partnered, that involves playing in your body, and that can really include so many different things. But to me, I love when sex is playful. So exploration, playfulness, an invitation deeper into relationship with the body, whether that's alone or with another person.
I love that. And I love the emphasis on whether it's alone or with another person, because I'm someone who always likes to refer to masturbation as solo sex to normalize that idea. Like, listen, you can be erotic with others. You could be erotic with yourself. And so such a good definition. Always my favorite question, because I feel like I also grow when I hear what people say about this. But now with your story and your experience as this somatic space holder, someone who's trauma informed about embodiment, a lot of people might be listening and think like these are a lot of cool buzzwords, but what do they mean? And I feel like in order to understand that, we really need to know your story, because you have such a unique story when it comes to this work. And that's why I was so excited to have a body love conversation with you. So tell us a little bit about your story and your intersex experience as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a big one. So my family found out that I was born intersex, which intersex is the term that they use to describe anything in between what is typical on the sex binary between male and female. These can be differences in physical attributes, internal or external genitalia, chromosomal, hormonal, all these differences, right? They found this out when I was a baby, and I found out during puberty because I was going to have a different, quote, different puberty experience from, say, my peers, where I was going to have to get on hormone replacement therapy. I was going to have to use vaginal dilators. I was going to have to, have these different conversations around not getting a period, not being able to have children. And that really changed and shaped my relationship with my body because I was terrified. I was ashamed. I was insecure and really worried about my body being different, which sent me down a very dark path with disordered eating and exercise addiction and abusing my body. But the common thread was always some form of movement, right? Like I always played sports, I did dance. Then I got into yoga when I was 18, and yoga became kind of my gateway drug into actually healing and building a loving relationship with my body. So then fast forward, countless yoga teacher trainings, started getting into trauma-informed yoga and thinking about breathwork and meditation from a trauma-informed lens. So then being able to support people and support myself ultimately of understanding the body's trauma cues when we're going into fight or flight or freeze, and trying to help people kind of get back into harmony and homeostasis with the breath and the body. Because so often I think anybody can go to the gym or go on a run and not be synced up with their body, not really love with
Yeah,
their body.
totally. Mm-hmm.
And the same goes with sex, right? So then when I was, early 20s, years behind my peers in terms of sexual interactions, because I was just really insecure and ashamed, I finally started to embark on that journey of sexual discovery and liberation. And of course, had like the quintessential hoe phase that I think many people do.
We love the hoe phase.
The
Yeah,
hoe
we can
phase
go in and out of the hoe phase, our whole life.
the rest
And
of our lives.
yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. And I, through that experience was able to kind of uncover my relationship with queerness and my struggles with gender identity and like not always understanding. So intersex is the term used to describe biological sex, right? Because there's male, female, and intersex. We just always leave intersex out for some reason. I don't, but the masses. Then we have sexuality, which that's when people get into the gay, bi,
Yeah.
lesbian, pansexual, all those different labels. Then we have gender. So then there's so much more around that. So here I am in my 20s, just kind of like ripping all of this apart, trying to understand labels. And now finally surrendering to the fluidity of my expression and how that relates to embodiment. So then when
Yeah.
we're in the body and we can really make peace with how fluid this whole experience is, related to sex, related to love and relationships and all of that, it's really just been the most fun little life, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such an important thing to first off understand the difference between intersex and transgender and then sexuality. Like, I mean, going through it personally, like I can feel how confusing that must have been. And it's interesting when I, as an educator, will ever bring up intersex people, one of the first questions is exactly what you just talked about. Oh, well, so if they're intersex, are they trans? Are they gay? It's almost as if you're in the LGBTQIA in some way, then does that mean you're all of it? Are you just some of it? And people, when we're thinking of loving our body and when we're thinking of embodiment, identity plays such a big part of it because of the culture we currently live in. And I just love your experience of coming to body love because we're all going to be tackling with our identity, how people see us, what other people's seeing is supposed to mean for us, right? And then finding our fluidity and our love in that process. So when you started like going through your hoe phase, did you realize you were queer, or did you kind of assume, like most people, oh, I'm straight because I'm alive and that's what everyone tells me to be? So
Yeah, I never once thought I was straight in my life. I started feeling attracted to women around 12, 13 years old. All of high school was very closeted and confused with how that would look because I was raised religious, but not really. And I was raised to, luckily, by a religious mom who also told me that being gay was okay. But I spent most of high school getting drunk and kissing girls and thinking that that was kind of like my, safety and way to explore things. And then as the hoe phase developed, I realized what it actually was compulsory heterosexuality or heteronormativity of like,
yeah.
wow, it's so easy for me as like a pretty femme presenting body with big boobs to get male validation very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So I often interpreted male attention as me being attracted, but it was just attention. And I didn't have attention, so I interpreted that. So that was the whole other thread with my sexuality was like, what am I truly attracted to? What really gets me going? And what stories am I playing into, even around submission or dominance and being perceived by other people? Does that mean that I'm attracted to them simply for existing and being perceived by them? That's whole
No,
complex.
but it's a big part of, again, going back to body love and embodiment, because I feel like something I heard from your story is the realization that there's all this noise around. For you, a big part of that noise was discovering that you were intersex, but then coming back to the breath, coming back to the body made you realize that like you could be whatever people could label you. It could be a
Okay.
doctor, it could be the guy or girl in the grocery store, the cute non-binary person you're flirting with, right? It could be
Yeah.
anyone, but embodiment and your practice of becoming this expert in somatics is just like deeply rooted to, again, like self-confidence, that internal love for your own skin, where things will influence, but you can always go back to what matters. And I think that's why somatic healing, and again, well, how would you define the word somatic for anyone who's not familiar with that
Yeah,
word?
and it's crazy because that, like you said, it really has become such a buzzword.
Yeah.
It to me, it's the feeling and like learning to kind of bring people into like the actual like body experience and like feeling into the body and feeling into the senses is one of my favorite practices to just kind of help people like reconnect with self. And I was listening to a really interesting podcast, as podcasters do, about like attraction and our whatchamacallit, our attachment style.
Oh, yeah.
So our attachment obviously is never going to be right if we're coming from a fight or flight place. So of course, if
Yes.
you're dysregulated through your nervous system, you're going to be attracted to probably the worst people ever for you.
Yeah.
And I think my teens and early 20s were like the perfect testament to that experience, where I was just attracted to literally anyone and everything that gave me attention and love and validation because I was dysregulated and
Yeah.
I didn't know how to regulate within myself that I needed another person. So when we start to heal our relationship with the body and we step into like embodying our authentic expression and learning to like actually breathe and be at ease and be okay with some silence and okay within our solo sex practice,
Yeah.
then we can start to maybe, if that's what you're into, have healthy partnership or partnerships that are going to be able to support that and sustain that. But if the body is not regulated and the nervous system's like all over the place, of course, so is the sexuality and attachment style, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's such a good point, And I think that's why you're so good at what you do, because you can really root that there's this universal pain point here where wherever someone comes from, if your body, again, like your nervous system has that fight or flight mode, and sex usually activates that part of your nervous system instead of the part that feels secure and soothed, right? And then we start having behaviors that might be erratic because we're feeling too vulnerable. Maybe it's triggering just to be naked. I mean, I have friends who are in beautiful marriages, long-term marriages, but they've been together for a long time. People have gained weight. They don't want to be naked in front of each other anymore, and like that causes the fight or flight mode. Like there's so many different reasons why you're going to disassociate from your body as a form of protection or safety. What are some just baby steps and tips you would give to anyone listening who is sort of like, man, that's me?
Yeah. I a very personal practice for me is just sitting in front of like a very big mirror, and I sit in front of my mirror naked almost every day and like loving self-massage with oil, or just being able to like look at your body and watch the voices, like the negative stories that we tell ourselves around our body, and just try your best. I know they can be loud, but try your best not to play into those stories, and to like just maybe close your eyes and breathe and bring your hands around your body and feel your skin, feel what your skin feels like. Notice the temperature, notice the texture, notice your breath, see if you can breathe a little bit deeper. And doing that and having that more slow body practice for me is like the foreplay of like actually leading up to that, like after the shower, and being able to hopefully at first tolerate yourself naked, but then eventually maybe really like yourself naked.
Yeah.
Um, because that's a whole journey. You know what I mean? Our bodies are always changing, and we gain weight, we lose weight, and we're always navigating that. Um, but that is like my, I guess, little remedy for anything related to not feeling comfortable naked. I've
Mm.
also been to a lot of naked beaches in my life.
Yes, they're amazing. Way more penises than I thought. Older gentlemanly penises than I would have
Yep.
anticipated.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of feminine bodies at the naked beaches too. And
Yeah.
I lived in Maui for 3 years. So I
Nice.
definitely frequented naked beaches there. And being able to see like some 70-year-old titties hanging nice and low
Yeah.
really helped me realize like, wow, that's where I'm going. Um, might as well enjoy them wherever they're sitting right now. I'm not gonna try to
Yes.
like, not feel comfortable and secure in this body now, because 10 years from now, 30 years from now, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We all have bodies. Those few
Yeah.
bodies that we see in the media or portrayed in pornography, that's such a narrow view of just some of the bodies on this planet. Um, so being able to kind of broaden your horizons and see other kinds of bodies, and maybe even try to consciously consume different kinds of pornography that's going to include different kinds of bodies,
Yeah.
to have better representation of the kinds of bodies that exist. Um, so that's like another thing.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a somatic practice. And something else you've touched on several times that I feel like I'd love to go deeper too is you've talked about the breath, going back to the breath, like you can, love yourself naked in the mirror. I love that exercise. Listening to you talk, I'm like, I need to do that more. I haven't done that in a minute. But you've mentioned breath several times. And so, first off, why is breathing so profound and important? I feel like it's so easy to kind of scoff it off as like,
Yeah.
oh, we're always breathing. But why is that such a profound somatic practice?
Well, when we think about anytime you're stressed or going through something, what is the first thing somebody says? Take a deep breath. And like we took a deep breath right before we hit record
Yes,
for this
we
podcast.
did.
Um, because it's the way that our lungs are in our body. Our nervous system, we have that whole vagus nerve moving through the
Yeah.
body all the way from up here all the way down.
Yeah.
Um, that we're going to stimulate that when we breathe all the way deep down into the diaphragm. So I always have people bring both of their hands onto their belly, and I say inhale through the nose and keep breathing in until you fill up the belly like you ate like a whole watermelon. Big pregnant breath, and then exhale back out the nose, because that's going to help get the vagus nerve. And the more we do that, along with singing, along with humming, and just letting out those big sighs, I mean, it makes sense for me in my most profound sexual experiences when I was able to use my voice and able to be loud and able to make the noises that I needed to make, because this is your body actually allowing you to go into like the rest and digest instead of fight or flight. And personally, I don't think that I could actually reach an orgasm in fight or flight. I need to be chill.
Yeah. Oh, same. 100% same. And for anyone who doesn't know that language, we've said fight or flight a few times. Like we said, your nervous system has two different modes: fight or flight, which is you're anxious; rest and digest, which is you feel soothed and secure. And 100%, there's so many studies that literally prove you need a calm and rest and digest nervous system in order to receive pleasure, in order to orgasm, in order to like heighten your pleasure, heighten connection. And going back to the breath, I mean, I love everything that you said because it's such a simple thing, but it's something everyone listening, you can do that right now in this moment. Breathing is such a good way to just get back into your body. And ultimately, like we have these fancy words: embodiment, somatic, na na na. It's just about like being with your body, acknowledging your body. Do you ever talk to your body? I feel like you're someone who probably does.
Constantly.
Yeah. What does that
constantly.
sound like? What do you talk about when you talk to your body?
So for me, I guess like multiple times a day, I'm constantly checking in with my body, and I'll bring like my hands onto a different part of my body, usually my chest or my belly. And I'm like, take a really deep breath, and I just wait. And I'm like, what do I need? And I'll take a breath. And I'll be like, it's not another cup of coffee. It's actually a snack. You know what I mean? Or like maybe I need some like solo sexual self exploration instead of reaching for my phone or reaching for, external validation or whatever that's going to look like. And I'm constantly like, take a couple deep breaths. Do I need to exercise or do I need to rest? Do I need to eat like a big, meaty, hearty dinner, or should I probably eat a vegetable today? So I'm constantly checking in with those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And even like, what would make myself more comfortable right now? I need to take off my fucking bra. I don't want to be wearing a bra. I need to change these underwear. Oh my God, they're really uncomfortable. All those things all day of really checking in with my body and being like, how can I make myself just a little bit more comfortable? Because that comfort is going to be regulating to the nervous system and to the body.
Yeah. And it's so crazy how much we normalize the feeling of not being comfortable to the point where we seek it out, right? Because this is why somatic, it's like you do these small things like I'm talking to my body, I'm breathing. And then over time, you'll see, oh, all those toxic people that I was attracting or even looking for, I'm not finding them anymore, or they're not sticking around. The bad lover. And when I say bad lover, I mean someone who's disrespectful, because there's no such thing as a bad kisser, someone who's bad at sex, just
Yeah.
PSA, right?
Yeah.
But all of these things, right? Like when we work on having a soothed nervous system, it's sort of like making sure the foundation of the home is good. So there could be earthquakes, but the house is still standing. We're going to be okay, you
Mhm.
know?
Anytime that I've done like a more intense breathwork practice to actually try to like bring some stuff up in the body. So like faster paced breath. So the faster we breathe, that's actually going to bring you into that fight or flight, like you said. So the more sympathetic, which can be really activating, but maybe it's going to help you move the energy through the body if you're going to kind of come back through with the parasympathetic and be able to rest. But anytime I
Yeah.
really build that relationship with my breath first, or I dance in the mirror first, and then the solo self, like sexual exploration kind of comes forward. Oh my God, it is so much better because you like take the time to kind of like actually get into the body and be in the body instead of like, oh, let me just try to come as fast as I can so that I can like get this over with. Thought
Yeah.
practice with yourself first, then you build that with stability to initiate that into partnered play is just going to be all the more better because you have it within yourself. You have those
Yeah.
practices within yourself of like, oh, I meditate first, then I dance, then I do some breath, then I'm allowed to start touching myself because then you're in your body. You're not just touching your body just to touch your body. And I think that
I love that.
it's a really important practice for anybody that especially has had any sort of negative sexual experiences, that if you're somebody that initially starts when there's any sort of sexual touching to dissociate and you feel like you're watching yourself from above the bed have this experience, you're not there, you're not in it, you're not enjoying it. So that's what comes back to the how can I make this more comfortable? How can I make this more connected? Do I need to have music? No music? Should I look at myself in the mirror while I do this and try to like build that relationship? People probably think I'm crazy how often I like to incorporate mirrors into my solo sex experiences, but that's the physical, like seeing yourself and connecting to your body and being able to be okay with your body,
Yeah.
present with your body.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, you're inspiring me to like the next time I self pleasure to like dance and breathe. And I especially loved what you were saying about the breath work of you can take yourself with those quick heightened breaths into the fight or flight mode, but you're driving the car in this experience. Like I feel like usually why fight or flight mode is such a difficult place to be erotically or just in your life is because you're triggered. So you're no longer driving the car of your emotions and your experience. But with breath work, you can do the slow, deep breaths and then do quicker breaths, activate fight or flight mode in a way that you have control over, move some feeling out of your body and through your body, and then have a great masturbation experience. Because that's the thing about sex, solo sex, or sex with a lover or lovers. Sex, I think, is confusing on a bodily level because it does activate very like arousing, almost ambitious emotions, emotions that feel similar to anxiety, emotions that feel similar to anger. And in fact, there's studies that show that your body, when you're aroused, your body has the same response, whether it's anxiety or sexual. You're going to have heightened focus. Your heart rate's going to increase, right? And so what you just said about the breath work, again, it's so profound because you're showing your body, hey, when I'm aroused, I can drive this car. So we're no longer going to conflate arousal with anxiety, arousal with anger, arousal with giving more than I'm getting, with feeling small, like, because sex and nudity, because of how we're raised with it, just like you said, it doesn't matter where someone comes from. We do want that validation. There's so many people, myself included, where my beginning experience with sex was, this is a transaction. You get my body, I get love or validation. Right. And like, just like you, somatic body based healing stopped that practice, stopped those thoughts, because these two things can't exist in the same body. The transaction of sex for love can't exist in the same body where you love and check in with your body.
I agree. Yeah. Because when you actually do love and check in with the body and you can hold that space for yourself, you're not going to reach for your phone and like reach out to the ex or, whatever toxic person that the last time you hooked up with, you felt like disrespected and kind of gross after. And you're like, wow, that like, they didn't call me for a week after. We all have either done that or have that friend that has done that.
Yeah.
But when you learn to self-regulate and really be able to be in your body with ease, I am not going to tolerate any of that shit from somebody because it doesn't feel good. That's like totally different radio station here where I, have like built a cozy little nest. If I'm going to invite a partner into this space, it's somebody that it's from a place of like me being grounded in who I am, that loves and accepts me for who I am, that knows, because I've definitely had those moments too where I wouldn't tell partners that I was intersex and that I would like lie and create all these little stories around it. Because I just wanted the love and validation. But if you can give yourself that validation purely by actually just being regulated, you don't have to change any external things. You don't have to lose weight. You don't have to have better skin. You don't have to be having like a better hair day or anything like that. You just have to actually feel safe within the body. But I think so many people don't feel safe within their body. Yeah. So this is like totally out of reach to be able to be like, yeah, be safe in your body.
Yeah. And then the first step just starts with a little bit of breath, a little bit of checking in. Like, again, that's what's so beautiful. I think people can get confused emotionally when they hear about this work because it's simple, but it's not easy. Mm-hmm. Right. And like what you're saying, okay, breathing, talking to yourself, simple, but not easy. And I think the hardest thing is that consistency of maintaining this practice. And I know something for you that you find so helpful with somatics, which I think is also helpful for sex, is routines. Like, talk a little bit about routines and what those mean to you as someone who helps others heal trauma and helps people connect to their body.
Totally. I'm really big on like just trying to build consistency in general, because if you're somebody with like anxious or disorganized, avoidant, any attachment where you're like, oh, I'm all dumpy. Building those routines of like, yes, every day I'm gonna like do something in my body first before I reach for Instagram, before I go to work, before I like chug 8 cups of coffee or whatever these things are. For me, any sort of daily body practice, whether it's dancing, stretching, a little bit of yoga, like I said, sometimes when we follow something like weightlifting or we go to any sort of class, it can become a little more aggressive and pulls us out of our body because it's so
Oh my
ego.
God, that's so true. I'm literally having flashbacks of dance classes because y'all, I am that white girl who can't dance. Love dancing, but you're totally, I like had just and that's the other thing about doing the body work. Your body will remember those moments, right? It
Uh-huh.
can be hard to do that, but go on. I love this.
Yeah, and see, then that becomes the next practice is learning to dance and not judge yourself for it. Is the same as
Yeah.
having sex and not judging yourself for it. Do you know what I mean?
Ooh, yes. Oh my God, preach. Oh,
Because,
that
like, if
hit
you
me.
can, yeah, totally. I think I'm a great dancer. Sometimes it's tequila induced, and I have no idea whether I'm good at dancing or not. Like, I'm just hanging out vibing.
Yeah.
Um, but like learning when we actually learn to slow down, that's the somatic practice of like, can you listen to slower music and just start to like move your body a little bit to whatever the noise is? And then maybe it speeds up eventually, but that's just how sex is. Cause sometimes people go in it right away and they're just like, so aggressive, so fast, no foreplay,
Right.
no lube. Let's just get it, you know?
Yeah.
Where if you ease into it, this is how we should start our day, easing into it, the soft, the sensual. I wonder if anybody on here will be able to guess my zodiac sign. But when we can like actually like really start to incorporate all the senses for that experience and treat your body like you want a lover to treat your body. So a nourishing food, that's going to be good for your nervous system. Having your long ass shower routine. And I get it. People have jobs. You're like, anybody listening, it's like, I don't have time for all of this. It's about incorporating the mindfulness into the practices that you're already doing. So when you're just haphazardly putting shampoo in your hair, can you actually make it a sensual experience and smell the shampoo and feel your hands in your hair? And all of that, maybe even give your hair a little pull if you're into that. I am.
Yes,
Um,
I know,
so,
again, agree.
like, so that way, when you're listening to music in the car, sing, listen to yourself sing, dance a little bit, enjoy it. Don't hit the car in front of you. Pay attention. Whatever those things are that you can incorporate being more present and more in your body and more in the senses, the better. Because
Yes,
that's just going to translate into those other areas in the sexual areas of your life.
absolutely. And I also think we all have the limiting belief that we don't have enough time. And somatic practices will also help you unlearn that belief. Because just like you said, you have time to like massage your head during the shampoo. You have time to sing in the car that you're already in. You know, you have time to enjoy your coffee.
Yeah.
And like that is, I believe, like the sense of urgency we have around time, I think also affects our pleasure, affects sex. I can't say how many couples that I've had either be students of ours or that I've worked with who are like, well, we have kids, we don't have time. We don't have time for this, we don't have time for that. And it's that same thing, you know, somatic practice with your lover. Maybe you two work big jobs, like you don't have kids, but you got dogs and responsibilities, or maybe you do have kids. I don't know what your situation is, but I know that you can notice how nice it feels to hold your lover's hand.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you can get flowers when you're at the grocery store. Because I think when it comes to couples embodying, you can also bring in external well, also in yourself. You could bring in the flowers, you could bring, because I feel like that helps me with my somatic practice, and connecting to the body means connecting to earth. Let me get more flowers, let me get plants.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah,
yeah,
all the
just
senses, like you said, like if you were
yeah,
to seduce yourself, um, yeah, of course, have those flowers. Hello, buy me
yeah.
flowers. You know, like if you buy yourself flowers and you have those there and you're rubbing oil that has like your favorite smell on your body after the shower, even better if you're in the mirror and you're looking at yourself and you're connecting to yourself. It's just these little tiny things instead of rushing through your life that's going to allow you to invite that deeper connection and deeper relationship with your body and somebody else's body and their relationship to your body. Because
Yeah.
like you said, if we're rushing everything, oh my God, I hate that.
Oh,
I
I
never,
know.
I know some people are into quickies. This might be controversial. This might be fun. I do not want a quickie. I want somebody to spend the whole afternoon on me, like
I
truly.
love
And
that.
I know it's
Yeah.
unrealistic sometimes, but like, at least every once in a while, I want to be treated like a 5-course meal, not a quick drive through McDonald's. And sometimes we treat our own bodies like a drive through McDonald's, and we need to be treating our bodies like that 5-course meal.
Absolutely. And I also think, with quickies, we should redefine the quickie, because the idea of a quickie, I think it roots back to the idea of something hard sliding into something wet. And the thing about any type of penetration, whether you're penetrating a mouth or a pussy or a booty, the orifice will be sucking you inside if it wants you, like truly. And so many people don't warm up the body. And so we're slowly pushing our way inside. And I think like one of the reasons why so many people are like, I don't like quickies either, is because the assumption is something hard sliding into something wet and it takes time to get there.
Yeah.
And so I even think if we want to enjoy the quickie can be fun if we redefine it. Like,
Yes.
can't the quickie be like a makeout session? Can't the quickie be
Yeah.
like you playing with my nipples or giving
Yeah.
me a foot massage or like, something?
Yeah.
It can be so many. It can be watching porn. Like it can be
Yeah.
whatever you want. And again, that ethical porn, so many options. But I
Yeah.
feel you. I'm not the biggest fan of quickies either, because I feel like so often the assumption is we're going to have a 5-course meal in one course. And that wouldn't even feel good if you're at your favorite restaurant. Who would want to
Yeah.
do that?
We don't have time for this. And that's what I mean.
No.
I know for me and for my body, I need time. And I
Yeah.
have to be able to communicate that with a partner as well. Of like, yeah, I need time.
Yeah.
Been through a lot of experiences with my body. So grateful for it. But
Yeah.
it likes time. It likes ease.
Yeah.
It likes the slowness. And I'm at least able to know that because I've spent so much time working on it, that I'm like, wow, a quickie. Yeah, maybe if that quickie is like a hot little makeout in the car, whatever, that's great. But I don't want to
Yeah.
be rushed for the full experience in a short amount of time, because I need to be able to I need to know that we're not on a time crunch.
I agree. One of my favorite affirmations right now is I am the princess and the queen. And like what you're saying is really speaking to that part of me who is like, yes, I'm the queen. Yes, I have an empire, but I am a princess, damn it.
Yeah.
You don't rush a princess. Like that's not how this goes. But I love that. And something else I wanted to talk about with you today, because you're also an intersex educator, and this is an area that people are so uneducated about, which is wild to me, because intersex people are just as common as redheads. They make up 1.7% of the population. My mom was a redhead. My grandmother was a redhead. It skipped me, which is the bane of my existence. I dye my hair red with a vengeance. But when I found out that intersex people were just as common as redheads, I instantly felt that and was just sort of like, well, why does no one know about this experience? So, what are some things that you would just love people to know?
Yeah. So like I said, that intersex is that term used to describe all the things in between.
Mm-hmm.
So never make an assumption if somebody's like, oh, intersex, never make an assumption about what parts they're working with or how they identify, or if they've had surgery or not had surgery, because there's truly every intersex person that I know has had a different experience and a different relationship with their body and prefers sex in a different way. So um, for me, I've really been on this whole journey of like being forced to undergo dilation therapy at a younger age and feeling like, like penetration hurt, penetration scary, penetration, ow, this is for somebody else. So I've had to like stop and then build that back up in my life to actually be okay with it. You know what I mean? Because penetration
Yeah.
used to be something that I just immediately sent me out of my body. Then another thing that I think people should know is like, if you ever have the privilege of getting to sleep with an intersex person, communication is even more important to me, and to kind of go easy and not make the assumptions about body and preferences and things like that. I've had my fair share of trauma with doctors. So when I and communicating with a new sexual partner and they just want to like go for it right away, I'm like, this is not going to happen. I'm immediately not going to be present. So there's definitely all of that. Um, along with, being intersex in the relationship to sexuality. So I know we started to talk about this right before we hit record. Um, if somebody's intersex, it doesn't mean that they are also trans. Some intersex
Right.
people are trans. If somebody's intersex, it doesn't mean that they're gay.
Yeah.
This is just a wonderful side effect of me getting to be who I am in this human experience.
Yeah.
Some intersex people identify as straight or something, else because it is unique and it's just one aspect of that whole, acronym.
Yeah.
I think other assumptions, again, people like have this idea, we throw around the word hermaphrodite a lot as a society.
Yeah. Hmm.
And some people consider it a slur. So I won't use it on anybody but me. Um, Other people like it and have reclaimed it in the same way that we've reclaimed other words, Um, I will jokingly call myself a hermaphrodite and a dyke because I'm like, well, I'm allowed to call myself these things. But if
Yeah.
some cis heterosexual man is saying it, I'm not loving it. Like, not a good time. Like when my whole high school found out that I was intersex and all those rumors started to go around. Alyssa Ball, I love that my last name is Ball. Alyssa, Alyssa has balls. Was like this whole thing. Alyssa has a dick. It's like, wow, we have like such a narrow understanding of what the term intersex actually entails because I was born with internal testes. I don't have them anymore. They were taken from me. That's why I'm on estrogen for the rest of my life. But some people still have them. Some people have larger external genitalia or different kinds of internal genitalia. There's this whole spectrum. Um,
Yeah.
so anytime somebody makes an assumption, when I say, oh, I was born intersex, people, boom, they're like, they think hermaphrodite, this is what it is. This is what it looks like. It's so much more than that. The picture is so big. There's this whole spectrum of the way that bodies are made in the same way that even just a vulva, we have like the different lips going
Oh,
on
yeah.
down there.
Oh my God. They're so diverse. Yeah.
So
No two
diverse.
vulvas look alike.
Exactly. And same with penises, like to
Hmm.
be able to look at that and be like, wow, like every body is already different.
Yeah.
Intersex is really just showing you, wow, there's some different stuff out there that you probably just haven't seen yet, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because with education and awareness, we can get rid of the ignorance that would kind of inflict more hatred and dismissing all of this. Um,
Absolutely. No, knowledge is so important. Like it makes people less radical. And
Definitely.
that's just huge.
Yeah, and to bring intersex into the whole argument about gender affirming care for trans people, um, all of the policy that is trying to prohibit trans people from accessing gender affirming care, specifically like underage children, there's always a little clause in there that says, yeah, but it's okay to do it to intersex people because intersex
Damn.
people have been undergoing genital mutilation always.
Yeah.
I had no consent to the surgery that was done on me, as many intersex people have never gotten to actually consent for the surgery that now I'm on hormone replacement therapy for the rest of my life because I didn't get to consent to a surgery. So in those same bills that are like, don't let trans kids make a decision that they're, asking to make, it says, yeah, but intersex kids don't get to make this decision. So I think that's also like a really interesting little table debate topic if you want to fight with your family.
Yeah.
Um, I personally do. Um, and that like really it all comes down to consent. Wow, we love that
Yeah.
word. It's our favorite C word. Is consent and how we all should be able to consent to what's going to be done to our body
Yeah.
at different stages of our life. And really that's our how we protect ourselves and that's our homeostasis is the yes or
Yeah.
no. And if it's not a fuck yes, it's a hell no.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
It's so true. It's so true. And even like really diving deep into the intersex experience brings to light something that I also think people don't think about or talk about, and that is medical trauma. That is the ways that we get traumatized in the doctor's office because we think someone knows more than our own relationship to our body.
Mm-hmm.
we can have our feelings or experience be completely bulldozed. And then, like you said, in the experience of intersex children. And in this instance, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not just talking like with the trans bills and transgender youth, we're often dealing with preteens and teenagers at that point who are looking to transition. With intersex kids, we're talking about true children. We're talking about infants and toddlers that
Yeah.
are getting medical procedures
Yeah.
done on them without their consent. And so, there's also, when we're thinking of this debate, wherever someone stands on it, I mean, I just think you're so right. It's about consent. It's about, can we give someone the ability to say yes or no? This is my experience. This is my body. I have to live in this. You don't.
Really?
I mean, even thinking of women's reproductive rights. I mean, ooh, I don't even get me started on that rabbit hole.
Well, I
My
think
voice
we're
literally
too
quivered. Yeah, it's tough,
it's
but
too
it's just
touchy right
tough.
now.
I know it's hard, but it's hard when you have people in power who do not have your experience or even your body making choices about your health and your body. And so, and again, that just boils back into this empowering thing we can do, which is somatic healing, which is, and especially trauma informed somatic healing. We did another episode with a BDSM expert talking about how kink is healing. And one thing that she said was, we need to have trauma informed people doing this, because you are going to, whatever you're trying to heal, we all have trauma people. Maybe it was a car accident, maybe it was your mother, maybe
Yeah.
it was the divorce. Who knows what your trauma is, but sex is about your body and relationships are about your heart. So your trauma, whether it is that car accident or medical trauma or social trauma, it's going to be brought up during sex. And somatic healing can really be a vehicle that we can use to not just, I mean, I believe in therapy. I believe in working with sex coaches, all
Yeah.
different types of people. You're a space holder, a somatic space, like people can work with you.
Yeah.
And I believe in doing that work, but I also believe that you can heal yourself. Like,
Mhm.
you can be victimized, but you can never truly be the victim of your story. And at the very least, you can breathe, right? You
No,
do
it's
that deep
accessible
breath.
everywhere. It's free. You don't have to pay
Yeah.
for it, you know? I mean, I love working with people, as I'm sure you do too, but, like,
Yeah.
if anybody takes anything from this podcast, literally just breathe.
Yeah.
Um, and when we take that time to slow down, like you said, any of that trauma from those experiences, I don't wanna be the victim of my story.
Yeah.
When I came out and I started actually doing intersex advocacy work, I have been
Mm.
very clear. Anytime any journalist has tried to reshare my story from their lens, I'm like, ugh. If it sounds trauma-y and
Yeah.
victim-y, I hate it so much because I'm not a victim. I
Yeah.
refuse to be a victim. I survivor. I love that people use that term too, like any sort of sexual assault stuff too. I'm not gonna claim being a victim. I am the creator of my story,
Yeah.
and I take my power back every day by being in my body and choosing to be here in my body, choosing to be here in this experience. Breathe.
Mm. Oh, yes. Oh, I love it. Are there any simple breath work? You mentioned the deep breath where you're holding your hands on your belly. Before we close out this episode, do you have any other, just simple breathing techniques that could be maybe even one for sexy time? I don't know. Either
Oh,
one though. Do you have anything coming to mind?
the sexy time ones can be kind of hard
Mm.
to, I guess, like teach in like a quick little thing. I know
Well, then people
personally.
just have to hire you and work with you then, I guess, huh?
Exactly, I guess so. Yeah, because I know that I'll play around with, like, breath and breath play with a partner and with
Yeah.
that all of that, absolutely live for that. Um, but the senses, and I'm always doing sensory inventories with my yoga students, with my one-on-one clients. It's always just, like, checking in with the senses and anchoring yourself here to this moment and breathing into that. I'm like, "Take a deep breath, notice the thing you smell, take a deep breath, notice what you taste," all these things to just bring you back into this moment. Um, and then, of course, humming. I think people forget that
Ooh.
we can just hum, but like when you inhale all the way and you hum the whole exhale and just do that over and over again. I'm doing that. I'll shake. I'm very big on like putting on shaking playlists on Spotify and just shaking and tapping my body and feeling the points of contact that I make with my body. And again, just incorporating those little tiny like microdoses of that awareness and somatic like practice within your day that's already existing. Actually taste your coffee. Don't just chug it. Actually taste your water. Wow, what does water actually taste like? We just drink it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like all
that's
these
such a
things.
good point. Absolutely. Oh, I love it. You gave so many good little nuggets, and I know people are just going to be taking notes and practicing these things at home. But for anybody who is interested more in your yoga practice or learning from you or working with you, how do people find you or find your work?
Great. Yeah. So my Instagram is I am limitless, Lyss. And I'm over on TikTok sometimes. The Intersex Witch is my TikTok, which I post a lot about intersex stuff over on TikTok. And I do like a monthly new moon group where it's just queer people at the moment. If you're somewhere in that acronym, I'm happy to have you join us, but we'll usually do somatic practices, incorporate like a little bit of talking and community activities as well. But then if you really want to dive deep, I do work with clients one-on-one. So all this stuff is there. I don't know if you have
all
like
the links.
yeah, I can give you all the links, the website, the signups for all those offerings. But yeah, I love to journey one-on-one with people around being with the body because that requires so much more awareness than any sort of group experience. But I do love my group experiences too.
Yeah, I can't wait to take one of your yoga experiences personally. Well, that is this week's episode of Pleasure Science. Please join us next week to learn about the heterosexual timeline. If you liked this episode with Liss, you're going to love that episode because we dive even deeper into these ideas that we're born with, that we're supposed to be a certain way. And part of that is the heterosexual timeline and why queer people can play by their own rules. I also share the story of how I came out of the closet to my family. So it's a fun one. It's a fun one. And in the meantime, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Pleasure Science. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and leave a rating and review, not just because you enjoyed this experience and Liss was incredible and you learned amazing things, but also because it's just so important to show the world that we care about sexual education and that this is something that's important to us because we live in a consumerist culture, which has good things and bad. But one of the good things is you can really show the culture what matters. So please leave a rating or a review. And you can also watch these episodes at the Pleasure Science YouTube channel. Liss and I are just so cute. So I know you're going to go over there because you want to see what we look like. And of course, remember that you get 10% off of all the Pleasure Science courses by listening to this podcast. So you could go to pleasurescience.com and use the code PleasureSciencePod. Honestly, someone needs to give me a shot of tequila for every time I say pleasure or a wellness shot, maybe, because we're about wellness over here. So
Yeah,
maybe a
and
wellness
tequila. We're about both.
shot. But anyway, thank you for joining this week. And at the end of every episode, I always tell you to go out and experience a little bit of pleasure today. But with this episode, I want us all to take just a leaf out of Liss's book and go and notice the pleasure we're already in today. Okay, savor it, be somatic, be sexy, and I'll see you next week.
Bye.
This podcast is a Pleasure Science production. Hosted by me, Nadège, your resident sex scholar. The Pleasure Science podcast is produced by Laura Moore and edited by Camille Furman-Callot. Our music is by Octasound and is licensed under the Pixabay Content License. To find out more about Pleasure Science and to sign up for our online courses, please visit www.pleasurescience.com.